Thank you. So I know you've learned a lot of information and a lot of techniques to bring back to your Girl Scouts as a leader and personal as well. So we all have a lot of great information. Dana and I collected all the information, all the questions that are on the index cards, and Dana's going to start with the first question, but I want to tell you we have until 3 o'clock, so we'll answer as many questions as we can that you wrote down. So Dana?
Thank you. All right, the first question is going to be for Dana Bernstein. You hear that? Okay, here we go. How do you resolve a conflict with a volunteer who will not respond and when asked in person avoids the conversation?
You just have to keep drawing that person out and finding out what is behind the avoidance. Like maybe there's an issue that they have, they don't want to talk about it. Try to crack the egg different ways. You know, maybe invite for a cup of coffee. Try to look at it from her perspective. Maybe she doesn't feel safe talking to you. Maybe she'd feel safe talking to your co-leader or somebody else. So drawing that person out, you'll get more information and then you could figure out how to work with her better. Do you want to do a follow-up on, did that help? Did that not help? Yes?
Would it be okay if I just added something really quick to that? Keep in mind, too, that different people in your service units have different skill sets. So, for instance, if you're having conflict with another individual and you're just not able to get them to come to the table, one of the things that I do is I'm a volunteer on Stockton University campus with an organization called Alpha Phi Omega. It's a co-ed national service fraternity based on scouting. And when you have two teenagers who are just out on their own that are in conflict, sometimes getting them both to the table is difficult. So sometimes when you have a third party or a mediator, you can hear the stuff with, it's a little bit, with a different voice. So I definitely think that utilize the different skill sets of the people in your service units. You're not in this alone, none of us are. And I think it's important to remember.
Amy, I think this is for you as well. What is the way to get past implicit bias?
Implicit bias. I'm telling you, like, you guys are throwing me stuff I could seriously do like 4 hours just on implicit bias. All right, so when you're looking at implicit bias, the most important thing is recognition and not beating yourself up for it, because it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from every single one of us come from different experiences. So I'll give you at lunch, we were discussing spiders, okay? And I am not somebody who gives spiders the benefit of the doubt. Some other people at my table, they wanted to. And I was like, okay, I hear you, but I have implicit bias. Actually, no, I have outright bias against spiders. So here's the thing, be aware of it. Online, if you even just Google search implicit bias, there are loads of quizzes and tests, and they're about all different characteristics. So somebody who's heavy, somebody who's of different races, somebody who's of different religions. And it asks questions that you'd never think to answer. And just by allowing yourself to be aware of what your implicit biases are, it allows you to effectively work within them and work around them. If you're not aware of an implicit bias, you can't do anything about it because you don't know it exists. So, you know, the most important component of implicit bias is absolutely awareness.
Do you want to give them the website for it?
I'll look it up and have them email it out to it, yeah.
This question is for Patricia. What is the best way to motivate our Girl Scouts to STEM and/or STEAM?
The best way? The best way to motivate them, I think, is just to inspire them that they can do anything. And not just in regard to STEM or STEAM or coding, but just to say that they could do anything. They could be anything they want. They could do anything. And there's nothing attached to that. That's it. They could do anything. There's no pre-qualifiers. There's nothing. They can just do anything. I think that's the best way to encourage them.
Jenny, this one's for you. Parents come up after the fact that the other girls make fun of her daughter. Leader doesn't see it. Other parents say, not my girl.
That's when you start to figure out you need to take a seat back and try to look at some of the dynamics in your group. Try to figure out where it is that the girl is experiencing this. Is she experiencing it before the meetings, during the meetings, after the meetings? Is she experiencing it because the other girls are talking around her and not with her? What is the level of experience that she's got? Then the next thing to look at is if you do have the opportunity to have a volunteer or someone else in your group, take a look at the dynamics of what's going on. Talk to those parents. Find out what is the experience their daughter is bringing to them. Where is it happening? Is it happening because the other girls don't understand what their daughter needs? Is it happening because because of the dynamic that the girl is bringing forth in terms of her patience and her ability to connect? Where is the breakdown happening, in other words? And then after that, that's when you start having things like the group meetings for inclusiveness. Rather than pointing a finger at a particular girl, but how do we get, as a team, how do we get everybody involved? What are the strengths that we each bring to this troop that we can use? If you have an upcoming activity that's going on, what are the strengths that we can tap into from everybody? Because once that particular girl is being seen as someone who has a strength that she's bringing to the event or the activity, the other girls might start talking to her differently. So without knowing the full nuance of what the level of alienation the girl is experiencing, where she's feeling it, when she's feeling it, who she's feeling it from, it's a little hard to answer the question, but you do have the ability to either scope it out for yourself or have one of the volunteers scoping it out. And it really does matter also when it's happening. Is it just happening at the very beginning because maybe some of the girls all knew each other before, so they all do a catch-up at the very beginning, and this is just not a girl that they were friends with before? Or is it something that's a little more targeted than that?
Okay, I'm going to throw this one out here, all right? So you let me know who would like to take this. And leaders, you're going to, perhaps this may touch on more people in the room. My co-leader drops the ball, and I wind up doing most of the work. How can I tell her in a way that won't ruin our friendship and relationship with our kids outside of Scouts that I need more help?
Don't make it about her. Don't make it about the co-leader. Make it about you. Say, wow, so she dropped the ball on something, and if you need more help, ask for it. Say, I need more help with this. Ask another parent to step up and help. Maybe this other person just can't manage her stuff. Maybe she needs to, I was talking to someone, put her on Google Calendar. Maybe she's just unorganized and can't do things. So find another resource if this one is not able to be relied upon. Or say, I'm a little frustrated because I need help with this. Don't do the, you dropped the ball on that, because that's just not going to go over well.
One of the things to look at is what jobs does the co-leader also seem to be dropping the ball on? So maybe the co-leader has, for instance, I am not so good at the paperwork. I am much more, I'm a talker. I know that surprises all of you, but I'm a talker.
And on the paperwork.
There we go. And that was me and my old co-leader, right? So that's the thing, is if you turn around and give me a whole bunch of paperwork, it's going to look like gobbledygook. And I don't mean it to look that way. I have the best intentions. But looking at what they're good at, looking at what their capabilities are, and trying to get them to do the jobs that excite them. Because one of the best things that was ever said to me is a few years ago, I volunteer a lot in a lot of different roles. And I was forcing myself to volunteer in some of these roles because, you get voluntold by your child and you do the best you can. But, here's the thing is that some of the roles I just wasn't good at. And one of the women said to me, you have to find your passion, even in volunteerism. And if what you're doing doesn't jazz you, if what you're doing doesn't make you passionate, then maybe that's not the right expenditure of your time and effort. So keeping in mind, maybe a different person in the troop is better fitted, maybe a different activity is a better fit, but we're not getting paid for this. We're doing this of our own time. Make sure you're doing things that make you excited.
And I'm wearing my mediator hat rather than what I spoke to before. Timing is also a big deal. Sometimes people just need enough advance time to plan. So when you have an activity going on, you may have to just sit down with your co-leader and say, can we just break down all the different things that need to happen between today and the day of this event? And then from there, let's be really tactical about it. Which are you going to do? Which am I going to do? What are the deadlines you're going to do them by? What are the deadlines I'm going to do them by? If we can't meet the deadline, what's our plan B? And B, make it like a business meeting. It's not to be unfriendly, but it's to be just very, very organized, because sometimes people just need advance time to budget out what they're going to do, and also to come clean with what they think they really can pull off or can't pull off. She might also just be too embarrassed to admit that she can't pull it off.
I'm going to pass it over.
And if you have pie. I was just going to add, because you mentioned co-leader. Oh, it's co-leader. Okay, so co-leader, so meaning that you're working together. And I think that if you don't address it and if you don't say anything, just from my experience with working in teams and working especially with two people on a project, you have to really be honest, even if it's hard, because I think it's definitely counterproductive if you don't address it, even though it's a hard thing to address, because then you're breeding resentment, and it just goes downhill from there. And girls, boys, no matter what age they are, they pick this up. They pick up that there's resentment and between the two leaders. So I think it definitely needs to be addressed. You've got the other raspberry pie, 'cause that's all fun. Right. That's right.
Okay, this is a good one. I have 2 postcards on this, so it must be something that's on people's mind. Can you share, I would think this would be for Amy, Inclusivity.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay. Can you share a couple of tips on how to deal with the mean girls or cliques? And another postcard had to do with girls in the troop being exclusive to girls in their troop and mean to other Girl Scouts even outside of their troop.
Sure. One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of times when you have a girl who's a mean girl, there's something else going on there. I'm on a school board, and on the school board, they're always looking at the victim and the aggressor, or they're always looking, and the truth is, when you're looking at bullying situations, you're often looking at 2 victims. There's something else going on with that girl. One of the most amazing things that you'll see is that when you allow girls to reach each other on a very personal and open level, colloquial, like open, forum type of meetings that aren't necessarily doing a craft, doing an activity, but just getting to know each other and seeing where each girl actually does have things in common with other girls they may not know about, that sometimes allows to build bridges. But in general, if you see a group of girls being mean, we're so often, as adults, we get indignant and we get angry and we're like, you know what, stop being mean. And sometimes we have to peel back some of the layers of that onion and see what is going on with that girl. Are they feeling threatened? Are they feeling left out? Are they feeling like that one girl is getting more attention than they are? Are they feeding into the negativity of the other girls that they're with? And when you look at it and you can talk to that girl directly or those group of girls directly, you can also deal with it as a group, because a lot of them are dealing with this at school too. And so having a conversation about bullying in general sometimes brings light to things that as a social worker, and I don't know if the other social worker here, so often we get given cases, like I got a case and it was, can you help this woman with being more organized? And I'm like, here, I know all the right things to say and I know all the right things to do because they're the things I should be doing at home. And so often, sometimes when people hear about it in an open forum like that, they'll start to say, yeah, that makes sense to me, without being threatened or feeling like it's attacking them directly.
I just wanted to piggyback on the knowing what's going on behind the scenes. I know it sounds stereotypical, but kids going through divorce who are being exposed to a lot of conflict going on in their homes often take that same conflict, bring it back into their school. And so if you have at all the wherewithal to be able to find out what's going on for the bulliers, to kind of get an idea of what the impetus is or what it is they're trying to get out, that can also give you some insight on how to deal with it better. And I do also agree, solving the problem as a group also helps a lot more. And that way, everybody's had a time when they've been vulnerable. I even start meetings sometimes just doing a round robin of, can you fill in this sentence? Today I'm feeling really unfocused. If I were more focused, I would fill in the blank. And it gives everybody an opportunity to talk about a day when they were feeling weak, or a day when they were feeling needy, or a day when they felt. And then once you've got that, you can then piggyback on top of that conversation about, well, how do we react on those days when we're feeling weak or needy? What ends, who can we feel comfortable talking to about those things? And it starts giving you a better idea of what the dynamics are between the individual girls. So knowing what's going on behind the meanness and the bullyingness can help.
And I don't know if you guys have ever done the activity with your troop. There's an activity, we call it the Wounded Scout. You actually draw a picture and cut it out of a girl. And you basically lead up to saying, this is a new girl, she joined your troop, she's very different. Everybody has to say something, so sometimes when that happens, not you guys, of course, but some other people out there, they might be mean. What are some of the mean things that people say about each other? So one, oh, you're short, or oh, and you rip a piece of the girl off and hand it to each of the girls as they say a mean comment towards the scout. And then you kind of, as you're ripping it off, you kind of crumple it a little bit, hand it to the girl, and then you say, okay, but now you realize the girl is actually someone you like. You realize she's not that bad. You realize that you actually enjoy spending time with her. Now it's time to build her up and put her back together again. And you give the girls tape, and they tape her back together again, but you show them that she's never quite the same as she was in the beginning. The wounds are still there. The crumples are still there. She doesn't look the same as she did before, because what happened to her is still going to affect her. Sometimes that's a really great talking point for troops that are having those types of issues. Thank you. It's a fun activity.
Dana, do you follow up with that person once a conflict is resolved, or does that just reopen the conflict?
I like to keep the lines of communication open. I keep talking to the person. I don't want to shut a door. So if I'm having a conflict with someone and it's resolved, I want to just check back and do a system check. Are we okay? Am I on the right path? Did I clean up what I needed to clean up? So it's all about, it's going to sound hokey, but I always find it's about love and community, and how do we get more people in and feeling good about themselves. So I try to just check in a little bit more often, especially if I did something or if there was a conflict.
You're actually doing an update.
I do an update.
You're actually doing an update, like a system update. A security update. It's a system update.
Great, thank you. This one's for everybody. How do you deal with a mom or dad who is screaming in my face? Anybody? Amy?
So it's never easy. I'm going to put it out there. None of us ever deserve to be screamed at. The problem is if you emotionally react to the situation, and there was a great slide that one of my colleagues had up showing the power struggle.
Not me, I didn't have
Okay. No, showing the power struggle. When you saw actually it was your slides, it had two people pulling on a rope. There can only be that power struggle if both people pull. In a situation where you have an upset parent, the thing is that we mirror. Anybody who's ever fed an infant, and I know I'm on camera and I'm going to do it anyway, you get the spoon and you go towards the baby's mouth and come on, do it with me. What do we all look like? Every time, right? We model. It's what we do as humans. It's just psychologically what we do. So you can be upset and you could be like, this is ridiculous. You're not taking my daughter into consideration. I hear you. I'm really sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. I really want to hear more. Can we sit down and have this discussion? Let's find a time and place where we can talk about it. On my drive here, I had a parent accost me on Facebook, and we were joking. Parents get upset and they get emotional and they get mama bear about their kids. It's just the reality. Allow them to feel through their emotion. Don't take it personally. because they're just reacting because they're upset about their kid. And if we don't fight it back and we allow them to feel through their emotion, value their feedback, allow them to kind of go through the process and be there as a supportive sounding board without taking it to heart, you're going to get a lot further than if you get indignant and angry based on the situation.
I was also going to say, again, environment is everything. Are they getting angry with you while you have 17 girls watching and waiting for you to lead an event? Or are they getting angry with you as everybody's filing out the door and you actually have a moment to talk to them and not have to worry about the safety of the 17 other girls? So timing is a big issue. I totally agree that you do have to sometimes acknowledge what's right in front of you. I can see you're really upset about this. I see this is getting you very angry. I can see you're very worried for your daughter. I can see, and the way you reflect it back at least gives them an opportunity to check in with themselves to see, is that really what's going on? Pull back to your conflict resolution 101 of active listening and iMessages. If now is not a good time to talk about this, this is clearly something that's upsetting you, and it's clearly something that's not going to go away by just giving it a quick brush off. So please, can we find a time when we can talk about this? Here's what that does. It, A, gives them an adult timeout, and gives you a timeout too. B, it gives you an opportunity to come at a later point and organize your thoughts so that when you do have a conversation with them, you're not all over the map, your amygdala is not fired up, and you're not doing the fight or flight dance. You actually have an ability to be a little more organized. And then the other thing is it gives them an opportunity to really prioritize what it is they are upset about by just having a moment to do a little bit of self-reflection on it. If it truly is one of those things where, no, it can't be talked about tomorrow, no, I can't talk to you tonight on the phone, no, absolutely not, it's got to be dealt with in this moment, there's probably not much you can do other than hope that you have a colleague who can take over the girls at that moment and then find a quiet place away from the crowd that's watching, because that also fuels the emotions when you've got the attention of a lot of other people. So take it out into a quieter place also helps.
And don't make it about you. When someone's angry, they have to own that anger. Don't be like, oh, I'm horrible, I'm this. Don't have that self-conversation. Their words are their words. Their anger is their anger. Your job, diffuse it, but don't take it to heart. Step back a little bit, because that will allow you to have a clearer sense of thought when going into it, that they're not attacking you. They're just having a day or this or that. But if you make it about you, then you're going to get all ratcheted up, or you could. So step away and draw that line to say, all right, I am not going to take this personally. It's not going into my heart. Because it's hard. We're volunteers. We're,
And from a social media standpoint, don't ever retaliate on social media if somebody does make a comment like that on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, anywhere, because even if you do and then you delete it right away, you take it back, it's out there, I take it back, I delete it, it's erased, it's never erased. We teach digital forensics, and we can piece together things that are erased up to 7 times. 7-time wipe is the NSA standard for erasing and for wiping data out. You can still put that data back together. So even though you think it's gone because you've erased it, somebody either downloaded it, took a screenshot, it's there, and it's there always and forever.
Yep.
That's worth reminding the girls of, too, when they start doing the cyberbullying.
Yep. Absolutely. All righty. This can be for any, and we have a lot of Girl Scout experience up here. How do I make it more girl-led at the Brownie level? So I think they're thinking as even the youngest girls, how can it be girl-led? Who wants to?
So, well, hello. I'll start again. So when we're looking at the Brownie level is where they're getting to that point now where their parents don't have to be at every meeting. I really like that age, because what happens is oftentimes the parents will be in the back of the room chatting a lot, and so it is very hard to keep the girl focused. So this is one of those times to invite parents to go food shopping and allow you to have time to allow the girls to be who they are without looking back going, Grandma, did I get the right answer? This is truly an incredible age, because they're really getting into that point where they're getting out of that baby-led stage, and they are moving away from learning to read to reading to learn. So, you know, they're becoming more independent. Allowing them to, at this point, look at the badge work. You know, hand out the different, you know, you have those different badges, hand them out at a meeting and say to each girl, which badge gets you excited? Which badge looks fun to you? And if you have 2 or 3 girls that all really like one particular badge, schedule your badge meetings as, okay, this one is going to be led by these girls, and this one's going to be led by these girls. And you can have them almost make their own little committees, with you overseeing it, with you supporting them. This is the time to really utilize the resources that are at our disposal already, whether it be the journeys, whether it be the badges, but allow the girls to have, those are very structured activities, because they have a step-by-step of this is what we have to do to accomplish it. And in doing that, you allow the girls to really take more advantage of the resources that are available and be able to do that more and more independently as they become leaders in the higher stages of scouting. Maybe you have anything to add?
I was just going to give a resource. There's an organization out there called the Odyssey of the Mind. I don't know if you've participated in it, but Odyssey of the Mind is a student-driven activity, usually centering around a particular problem that the kids have to solve, and then usually there is a creativity component, and it's a competition. And Odyssey of the Mind actually starts at the kindergarten level, I believe, and there's strong limits on how much involvement the adults can have. So they have a website where they talk about how do you lead creative and kid-driven planning meetings in order to get a project done. And they talk about how much involvement the adults should have. One of the things that often helps is just having all of the girls brainstorm on a particular idea, and then keep a note on who said what for their ideas, and then come back and reread the list and say, hey, Janie, you said we should be trying this. Tell me a little bit more about that. And then they start educating the rest of the girls in the group about their idea. Oh, wow, who else would be interested in that? Could we get a little group together that's going to work on that? Janie, you can be in charge of it, but who are the other girls who are going to support her? And from that, it's a much more organic process of leadership that they can even handle at Brownie age.
We have time for just one more quick question, and this one is, how do you respond to other parents and girls' gossip about a diverse girl, especially when you give her exceptions to certain rules and she does not want to talk about the mental or physical abuse that this child has experienced?
When you're looking at inclusivity, gossip is going to be a thing. It is. When you're looking at the girls trying to understand another girl, they're going to base what their understanding is on their own experiences, which are limited. And so they're going to try to make sense out of a situation that doesn't necessarily make sense to them yet. So education is absolutely key. But you don't want to call out a particular girl. So when you're looking at inclusivity as a whole and you're looking at educating your students on inclusivity, using activities that are bringing to light the different characteristics of each girl's abilities or disabilities in general, because these are all going to be girls that they come in contact with even at school. The more that you give them understanding and experience, have a day where, you know, what one of the activities our troop did, we brought in crutches and a wheelchair and a walker and all these different things, and we had each of the kids just use them, try them. You know, one of the scout activities we did, we tried things where you wore, you know, goggles with Vaseline in them to feel like what it looked like to not be able to see. The more education they have, the more you expand their experiences, the more they'll have to look back on when they're trying to make sense of these things that don't necessarily make sense to them.
And this is just a more practical thing, too. You can also do activities where that particular girl is paired with another girl, so that they're working together as a team. So the experience that the other girl has will probably also go back through that rumor mill system, if you will, because then they start seeing them as individuals rather than an object, of a person who's allowed to get away with something. Oh, but when I worked with her, she did this, and I did this, and we did this together, and it ended up being a positive experience. And that information can go through the gossip mill, too.
Well, that concludes our panel discussion. Ladies, thank you so much. You did a great job. I think they need a round of applause again. Thank you so much. Next up is Andrea Miller doing the closing, along with Kay in a little bit. Okay. There you go.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We just wanted to take this last opportunity to say thank you so much for sharing your day with us. Volunteers and our panel, we appreciate it that you got up early, you came out, and you participated and were engaged for the whole day. This will end our day, and again, thank you. Please have a safe trip home, and all the PowerPoint presentations will be emailed out to you if you don't take good notes like me. Have a good one. Thank you.